Just want to record a quick video to introduce myself to this page. I created it a few months ago and I haven't done much in the way of posting, but I think I'm in a good enough place to kind of talk about what I've been working on and how I got to where I am. I think most people will probably find it useful, but maybe no one will see it and it'll disappear into the bowels of the internet. My name's Nelson. I'm a CPA. I'm a real estate investor. I am a technologist. I'm located in Tampa, Florida. I want to start with the fact that I niched down into short-term rentals recently, and there's a couple reasons for that. The first reason is that short-term rentals, having operated them for a couple of years now, they're fun to apply technology to. That's because it's very competitive. So you're competing with hotels, you're competing with other short-term rental owners, but also you're making a lot more decisions over the course of a day, week, month with short-term rentals than you are with long-term rentals. And I have long-term rentals. The only decisions I'm really making is how do I make this place livable, and do I want to raise the rent 25 bucks at the end of the 12-month lease, so once a year, as opposed to short-term rentals where you're making decisions almost on a daily basis related to pricing, turning over units, accepting guests, and you just need a lot more information with short-term rentals than you need with long-term rentals. The other reason why I niche down into short-term rentals is because I've noticed it's gotten a lot more popular among the 9 to 5ers. That's not a derogatory term. I started investing in real estate when I was a 9 to 5er. I'm still a 9 to 5er, technically, if you think about it. With them, they sort of fall into the tax trap where they get drawn in with the 100-hour rule. And this is strictly anecdotal evidence based on my experience. And they don't really quite understand the full financial picture. There's not enough technology out there that actually emphasizes profitability on a per property basis. There's a lot of content and short-term rental influencers that help with top line, right? Like what furniture should you put in your short-term rental, things like that, and price labs. How do you optimize for the top line and not necessarily are my properties profitable? Is this truly worth it? And there's a really good middle ground where you can reach as a small 9 to 5er short-term rental host where you're cash flowing or maybe even breaking even, but you're with depreciation, you're taking that loss and then offsetting your W-2 income and get that tax benefit that you actually started out trying to chase. What I think differentiates me from other accountants, and I just want to cover 3 things. The first thing is flat pricing. Flat pricing is not a super revolutionary concept in and of itself. I think a lot of accountants are moving towards that, but no one really gives a reason why they do flat pricing. The reason why is because if you have an hourly engagement with your CPA, accountant, bookkeeper, they're not billing you for the amount of time that it actually takes them to do your accounting. They're not sitting there with a stopwatch and starting it when they start on your accounting and then stopping it when they're done. They're billing you based on the amount of value that it provides to you. So for example, if your accountant, it takes them 2 hours to do your accounting at the beginning and they get super efficient and it takes them an hour and a half, they don't bill you for an hour and a half. They bill you for 2 hours because that's your expectation and they know that you're willing to pay that. The incentive for the accountant a lot of the time is to run up the tab with more and more hours with extraneous activities in order to make more money off of the client. And it can kind of create a frosty relationship between the client and the accountant because the client kind of knows that it doesn't take them that long, but they can't say anything because they can't prove it, and it gets a little awkward. For me, I work very closely with my clients, and that's the reason why I just do flat pricing. It makes it so much easier. I don't have to spend time billing. I don't have to spend time explaining the amount of time it took me in order to do things. And so if I spend less time, I would either have to inflate the hours in order to maintain, like I said before, or I would have to get so many more clients and I wouldn't be able to work as closely with those clients. That's the reason why I do flat pricing. And it's not, again, not super revolutionary, but not everyone does it. The other thing that I think differentiates me is the direct line. My response times are contractual. And this is something that I did even before I formalized it. I would always respond to my clients super quickly. I like to attract a certain kind of client that runs fast and is making those decisions. And they need information. They need to reduce their decision latency, which is just basically the amount of time between they get the information they need in order to make the decision and they make the decision. I would say most accountants, they probably just use traditional email. And when you have a question that's sort of urgent, if you're thinking about selling a property, refinancing a property, you don't want to get buried in a long line of emails and you don't know whether or not your accountant's going to get back to you in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, especially when they're really busy. The most important differentiator is my technology. And at the beginning, I think I was a little worried about being transparent with the technology that I used because I was afraid that I was going to be replaced or people were going to start doing their own accounting. But now I've realized that being super transparent with, again, pricing, being super transparent with how my clients reach me, and also being super transparent with the technology that I use, it just creates the best working relationship with me and my clients. And so when I first started out, I wanted to have a branded LLM and I wanted it to be sort of white labeled so that no one could see what I was using. But I'm going to start creating some more content around the technology that I use and why I think it specifically lends itself to short-term rentals. But the big concept behind the technology that I use is that I'm now no longer using accounting software. I'm just exclusively using LLMs as the double ledger accounting software on its own. Not only is it adequate and cheaper, but it's actually better than the traditional accounting software. Because I'm spending so much less time on my clients, I'm spending so much more time on the advisory part of being an accountant and being a CFO, being a true CFO. I think that QuickBooks, they believe that they have inelastic demand for their product, and perhaps they're right. But right now, I'm actually transitioning clients off of QuickBooks. I'll say if you have just one short-term rental, I'm probably not for you, just because if you have one short-term rental, you should be doing your own accounting, in my opinion, because you should be in the weeds at that point. But if you have two or more, then I'm certainly happy to chat, walk you through my technology, and then hopefully help you to, again, reduce that decision latency. So check the link in the page in order to look at my booking calendar and talk soon.